Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Got a lot to get to today and a long way to go and a short time to get there, so let's jump right into it. Rob, what I'd like you to do, let's grab the Louie Giglio clip. I think it's clip number 9 is the main one I want. I think we've got 2 clips there from Louie Giglio. So let's, and this is what Louie Giglio said in this sermon from the 1990s. And this is what we are waiting for from Louie Giglio. We are waiting for some kind of clarification about where he stands. Does he still stand by what he said in the 1990s? I'm going to play you 2 excerpts from that sermon, again, delivered from the pulpit. And realize what's happened here. This is blatant religious bigotry. He has been discriminated against because of his religious convictions, because he believes what the Bible teaches about sexuality. That's the only reason he was thrown under the inauguration bus, because he believes what you and I believe. That's discrimination. That's bigotry. That's religious discrimination. That's exactly the kind of thing that the First Amendment was written to prevent, and yet the chief executive officer of the land, President Obama, is the one that's responsible for this blatant, heterophobic, Christophobic bigotry. And it's because Louie Giglio said this back in 1995. Here's clip 1.
We must not just sit quietly by and stick our heads in the sand and let whatever happens happen in our country. We've got to respond to the world that we live in. That is the mandate that comes to us as the people of God. And this issue is coming more and more to the forefront every day.
So that's Louie Giglio back in 1995. We cannot sit quietly by and stick our heads in the sand and let whatever happens happen in our country. We've got to respond to the world that we live in. That is the mandate that comes to us from the people of God, and this issue is coming more and more to the forefront every day, talking about the aggressive homosexual agenda. So here's Louie Giglio 15, 20 years ago. We can't sit by. We can't be quiet. We can't stick our heads in the sand. And everybody's saying, well, Pastor Giglio, where are you? Where are you? It looks to us like you are sitting quietly by and sticking your head in the sand. Now, we don't know. I want to be quick to add. We don't know because we haven't heard from him. He hasn't declared himself. He hasn't spoken on this issue, so I'm not judging him. But what I am saying, I'm not prejudging the situation because we want to give him time, but the window of opportunity to speak to this issue is rapidly closing, and we need an answer to this question. Do you still stand by this statement that we cannot sit quietly by when the homosexual agenda is advancing by leaps and the proverbial bounds? Here is clip number 2, is clip 10, Rob. Second one from that same sermon. Listen to Louie Giglio.
We've got to lovingly yet firmly respond to the aggressive agenda of many in the homosexual community. We must lovingly yet firmly respond to the aggressive agenda of not all, but of many in the homosexual community. Now, I know that the portrayal is, we got 2 guys up here on Northern Exposure, and they love each other, and they just want to join their lives together and live happily ever after and have a home and have a life and have, happiness just like you do. Why would you want to deny that of them? They're not hurting anybody. Well, I want to tell you, that's what they would like for us to think. But underneath this issue is a very powerful and aggressive movement. And that movement is not a benevolent movement, but it is a movement to seize by any means necessary the feeling and the mood of the day, to the point where the homosexual lifestyle becomes accepted as a norm in our society and is given full standing as any other lifestyle as it relates to family.
That's Louie Giglio then. We've got to firmly respond to the aggressive agenda of not all, but of many in the homosexual community. No one's ever said that everybody in the homosexual community has this agenda. Nobody's ever said that. But those aren't the people that represent a threat to our liberties. The homosexuals that just want to be left alone, nobody's going to barge into their bedrooms and arrest them for what they do in the privacy of their own bedrooms. It's not going to happen. Now, you take it out in the park, you take it to a bus station, you take it to a rest stop, that's going to be a different deal. But nobody's going to barge into your bedroom and haul you off in shackles. So for homosexuals that are willing to keep this private, keep it between themselves, nobody is going to bother them. Nobody's even talking about bothering them. That's not the issue. It's those that are aggressive in the homosexual movement that represent the threat to our liberties. And clearly not every homosexual believes this. I've got a story in the stack here. I won't have time to get to it today, but you know they're having a big issue in France over gay marriage. And you know who was leading the charge against gay marriage? The ones that are leading the charge against gay marriage are homosexuals. A couple of the three most prominent leaders of the anti-sodomy-based marriage movement in France are homosexuals. You know what they say? They say that every child ought to be raised by a mom and a dad. Some of them were even raised in same-sex households, and they're saying, look, we know that's not best. I know that's not best. I was raised in that environment. That's not good for kids. And what they're saying, their slogan is, the rights of a child trump the right to a child. They're saying, look, we in France, these are gays saying this, homosexuals, we've got to put the needs of children first. The rights of a child, that is its right to grow up in a stable two-parent family raised by the mom and dad that conceived that child and brought him into the world, those rights are superior to the rights of homosexuals who have this narcissistic demand to be able to be parents because that's what they want. It's not about the children. It's about them. It's about them satisfying their narcissistic urges. And these homosexuals in France saying, no, we got to do what's best for children in this country. I'm gay. I'm out. I'm loud. I'm proud. I'm not apologizing for it. But what I am saying, this is what they're saying, what we are saying is kids deserve a mom and a dad. And so, you know, Louie Giglio is clear. We got an aggressive agenda out there. Not everybody believes it. Even these gays, homosexuals in France don't believe every part of the gay agenda. But his point is this is not a benevolent movement. This is what he said. It's not a benevolent movement. It is a movement to seize. It's powerful. It's aggressive. And it's a movement to seize the feeling and mood of the day to where homosexual lifestyle becomes accepted as a norm and is given full standing as any other lifestyle. So look, this is not benevolent. And he is Exhibit A. You talk about Exhibit A of this not being a benevolent movement, it's Louie Giglio. Here he spent a good part of his ministry in his adult life trying to fight the scourge of human trafficking and sex slavery. It's a scourge. Atlanta, his hometown, is the nerve center for human trafficking in the United States of America. He's fighting it tooth and nail. That's what brought him to the attention of the inauguration committee. They appreciated the work he's doing to fight human trafficking. Did that matter at all? It didn't matter a bit. Didn't matter one whit. Because in this movement, in the movement of Big Gay, the only thing that matters is whether you are with us on every demand of the homosexual agenda. It doesn't matter how much good you've done outside of our agenda. If you aren't lockstep with us in supporting and promoting our agenda, we are going to kick you off the train. We're going to throw you off the platform, just like that guy got shoved in front of the subway train. That's what we're going to do to you. And that's what they've done to Louie Giglio, bounced off of the inauguration platform and right under the train. And, it looks, and again, we're still waiting for Louie Giglio to address this. He hasn't said a peep, hadn't said word one since he got bounced, other than the initial statement that he issued, in which he created as much distance as he could between himself and what he'd said 15 to 20 years ago. I mean, the impression he left, that was then, this is now. Now, I think he may have felt like it would do some good. Apparently, the reason that he's kind of pulled his punches is he doesn't want to alienate homosexuals. Well, you start thinking about this. Well, why aren't you pulling your punches with human traffickers then? If your agenda, Pastor Giglio, is to be as embracing and welcoming as you possibly can to every sinner, to sinners of all varieties, then why are you running the risk of alienating human traffickers? When you come out and say that what they are doing is reprehensible and it's wrong, you're going to alienate them. They're not going to want to come to your church and hear the gospel. So why aren't you worried about alienating them? So there's this kind of very selective sort of focus that's taking place here. And here is somebody who is a supporter of the gay movement, wrote this piece on Huffington Post about Louie Giglio. She says this, a woman by the name of Emily Timball, or Timbo, I don't know how she says her last name, says this: in 2007, I was one of the 21,000 college students packed into the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia for Passion, the now infamous mega Christian conference founded by Louie Giglio. It was incredible. I'll never forget the feeling of worshiping God with that many people like me, who wanted to make a difference. Those lingering feelings of fondness for Passion and Giglio are one reason why I'm so saddened by recent events surrounding his invitation to and withdrawal from the 2013 inaugural prayer. When I first heard he was doing the prayer, I was thrilled, happy that he had been invited by a president I support. But then I read the New York Times article quoting a 1990 sermon where Giglio called on fellow Christians to, quote, fight the aggressive agenda of the gay rights movement and advocated the healing power of Jesus as the only way out of a homosexual lifestyle. Like many Christians who support their gay and lesbian friends, I'd hoped Giglio would release a statement apologizing for his prior remarks, one that offered some kind of clarification or admission of growth, but he didn't. So here's the place that Louie Giglio has found himself. He has neither apologized for what he said, nor has he defended what he said. So he's left himself in no man's land, and consequently, he's taking fire from both sides. And she uses an interesting analogy in here, and I'm going to kind of flesh it out just a little bit. But this writer uses the analogy of a rope bridge. And, I just get this picture of Louie Giglio. There's this chasm here. You have those that think sodomy-based marriage is great. It's perfect. We ought to support it. We ought to sanction it. We ought to promote it. Over here, you have those that believe marriage is the union of one man and one woman, that what God has defined, man must not redefine, and we're unapologetic about that. And we're on one side of this chasm. There's no common ground. There's no neutral ground. There's this chasm. And Louie Giglio is out on this rope bridge. He's in the middle between these two sides, and he's dangling over this chasm. And the problem is that rope bridge is being burned from both sides of the chasm. If he doesn't declare himself pretty soon, he's going to fall into the abyss. Focal Point, AFR Talk, back in 2.